The story of the cute little chocolate curls girl and the three bears by William A. Jefferson, dedicated to Christopher and Guillaume Jefferson. Once upon a time, there was a cute little chocolate curls girl. Chocolate curls to most, and Cece to good friends. Cece had come to spend a few days with her grandparents, who lived at the edge of the forest. "May I go out and play?" asked Cece. "Okay, but don't go far," said her grandmother, busily cooking lunch. "Watch out for the bears," warned her grandfather, intensely reading the morning newspaper. Cece came closer to grandmother and whispered, "He is joking, isn't he?" Leaning in and gently running her fingers through Cece's curls, grandmother smiled and said, "They're very nice, but they like to be left alone. Some people are afraid of them, and well." Cece frowned, but laughingly blurted out, "You're both joking, right?" Just then, grandfather looked up from his newspaper and in his most stern voice said, "They're a family. A baby bear, a polar bear, and a big black bear. They like to be left alone, and we oblige them. That silly little girl should have had her locks bitten off. So don't you go anywhere near their house." Trying to contain her obvious curiosity, Cece slowly turned and headed towards the door, softly muttering, "Bears live in a house? Remember now, don't go down the path to the right that goes past the forest of old dried up white oak trees," shouted grandfather, as Cece quickly closed the huge blue front door behind her. But we all know what a curious little girl or boy is going to do. Cece went out the house, through the vegetable garden, past the apple orchard, down the path in the opposite direction, over a redwood bridge at the river, across a field with a rainbow of wild flowers, up a path, and curiously found herself right in front of a small sign. Guess what that sign had written on it? You guessed right. "The Bear's House," Cece read aloud, then began to laugh. This must be a joke to keep children away from something really interesting and fun. As she began to turn to walk in the opposite direction, a trio of mockingbirds caught her attention and just happened to be traveling along the path towards the bear's house. Cece looked away for a moment, a very, very brief moment. Then off she went, following the birds. As the birds flitted about, they seemed to be calling for her to follow. At least, that's what Cece was telling herself as she danced deeper and deeper into the forest. She imagined the trees moving their leafy, heavy limbs in a beckoning motion, as if they were saying, "Adventure lies ahead." At the very moment that her little tired legs began to make her doubt her decision to travel so far, she saw it. A modest house with a bright cinnamon-colored door. As Cece cautiously approached, she realized that she was more curious than scared. "Bears don't live in houses," she muttered to herself as she walked onto the porch up to the door. She knocked once, and no answer. She knocked again, this time even harder. Still no answer. Going to one of the front windows, she peered in. "Bears don't live in houses," she muttered to herself. "This must be some sort of playhouse," she thought. At least, that is the excuse that she gave herself as she did the unthinkable. She walked right in. "Surely you won't mind if I take a peek," she shouted as she entered the well-appointed house. "This is lovely," she exclaimed. "Bears don't live in houses, and certainly not in something this nice," she muttered. It was then that she became aware of a wonderful aroma, and as her hungry little tummy growled, she was drawn into the kitchen. At the table in the kitchen, there were 3 bowls of pumpkin soup, made with honey and cloves. Cece was suddenly very, very hungry. She tasted the soup from the first big blue bowl. "This soup is too hot," she exclaimed. So she tasted the soup from the second smaller pink bowl. "This soup is too cold," she said with a frown. Then she tasted the last soup in the third, even smaller green bowl. "Yummy! This soup is just right," she said with a great big smile, and she gobbled it all down. After she had eaten the 3 bears' soup, Cece decided she was feeling a little tired. So she walked into the family room where she saw 3 lovely chairs. Cece sat in the first big brown leather club chair to rest her feet. "This chair is too big," she explained as she dragged herself out of its cave-like grasp. So she sat in the second wing chair with its delicate, inviting upholstery. "This chair is too uncomfortable," she grimaced as she slid out of its cave-like grip. Then, with a sigh, she tried the last and smallest chair, a chocolate rocker recliner. "Heavenly! This chair is just right," she said with a large, satisfied sigh. But just as she settled down and leaned back in the chair to rest, she heard a loud popping sound. She had accidentally broken it. Cece thought to herself, "I can't leave now. I am going to have to explain what happened." So she went looking for a pen and piece of paper to leave a note for the elders. It was the right thing to do. But by this time, Cece was very tired. So she went into the living room. She lay down on the first large Chesterfield sofa, but it was too hard. So she lay down on the second smaller camelback sofa, but it was too soft. Then she lay down on the third camelback love seat, and it was just perfect. And an exhausted Cece fell into a deep, deep sleep, while Cece lay dreaming about any punishment being worth this wonderful day filled with adventure. The 3 bears arrived back at their home and headed straight into the kitchen. "Someone's been eating my soup," growled the papa bear as he grinded his teeth in anger. "Someone's been eating my soup," said the mama bear as a scowl came across her face. "Someone's been eating my soup and they ate it all up," cried the baby bear as tears streamed down his face. As the family began to check into other rooms, "Someone's been sitting in my chair," growled the papa bear as he took a deep breath to control his growing anger. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," said the mama bear as she sat down to control her growing anger. "Someone's been sitting in my chair and they've broken it all to pieces," baby bear shrieked. With an extremely angry papa bear leading the way, they decided to check the rest of the house. "If it's that pesky little girl again," Papa Bear looked at his claws and smiled. "We'll send her back home like before," said Mama Bear as she patted Papa Bear on his shoulder with a loving smile. "Let's claw her up this time," snarled the little angry baby bear. When they got into the living room, Papa Bear growled, "Someone's been lying on my couch." Someone's been lying on my couch too, said the mama bear. Someone's been lying on my couch, and there she is, cried baby bear. Just then, Cece woke up and saw the three bears. Hello, I'm Chocolate Curls, and I can explain everything as soon as I wake up from this dream, said Cece, rubbing the sand from her eyes and showing a big, broad grin. Looking at each other in amazement, Papa Bear whispered, why didn't she jump up and run out screaming like the last one? Mama Bear whispered, she thinks she's dreaming. Baby Bear angrily blurted, let's eat her. Suddenly, Cece began to accept the fact that this was not a dream, and as she gradually sat up on the couch and muttered, bears do live in the house. Taking a long, deep breath, Cece smiled and repeated, hello, I'm Chocolate Curls, and I can explain everything. Pulling up a chair and sitting himself directly in front of Cece, a curious Papa Bear asked, why aren't you running out of the house screaming like that other little girl? Cece shook her head, smiled, and explained, you live in a house just like me. You have some very nice things, just like me. And you seem really nice, even though the little guy wants to eat me. My daddy taught me to fear people that make me feel like they might hurt me. Looking up at Mama Bear, Cece said, do you plan to hurt me? With a sigh, growing smile, and looking directly at Papa Bear, then placing a paw on Baby Bear's head, Mama Bear said, no, dear. From that day forward, the Bear family had many visits from Cece and her grandparents. She even learned their names. Benjamin Black Bear, Claire Black Bear, and little Benji. She even learned something about polar bears that many people don't know. That they have black skin. And that white fur, well, things are not always what they seem. The end.